100 Winters, Retracing the Great Race Against Death. Written by Jonathan Nathaniel Hayes. Illustrated by Caleb Gingra. Chapter 13. Old Ghosts. Mark Twain once wrote, "Before it is your favorite place, it's somewhere you have never been before." This was my chief thought as I made my way up the pass on what would be a 2-day portage from the Yukon River to the village of Unalakleet on the coast of the Bering Sea. Perhaps it was the dramatic change of scenery, from the monotony of river travel to the winding, twisting, hilly taiga. Perhaps it was the tracks of wildlife, the ever-present sign of life. Perhaps it was this portage marked a major milestone on the expedition, 2/3 complete once I reached the coast. Perhaps it was the ravens following us as we snaked through their home, hoping we'd drop some food or leave behind an unwanted catch like the trappers who come before. But I don't think it could be reduced to any of these things. I think the place is simply spiritual, all on its own. A sense of reverence overcame me, the kind that makes you instinctively lower your voice when you speak. I knew there were 2 shelter cabins along the portage, commonly used by mushers running the Iditarod about a month from now. The second of the 2, Old Woman Cabin, would be our destination for the day. I planned to stop halfway to rest the dogs, but when I reached the halfway mark, my teammates had not yet caught up. The dogs were running well, so I decided to press on to the first cabin, about 2/3 of the day's miles. Tripod Flats. I emerged from the trees into a clearing that winded steadily until I found myself in a mile-long open field, likely a swamp or lake when not blanketed in snow and ice. The trail, marked by wooden tripods, roughly 4 feet high, intersected the field, which was ringed with conifers. It didn't take Sherlock Holmes to deduce that this was Tripod Flats, and I knew the shelter cabin must be nearby. For cabins meant to provide emergency shelter, I found both these cabins to be hard to locate. I'm sure they were nestled in the trees to escape the brunt of the wind, but they're of little use if a traveler can't find them. Just before crossing a small bridge and entering into the taiga again, a glint of metal over my left shoulder caught my eye. About 100 yards back off the trail in the trees, I spotted the cabin. I had already passed it. It was the beginnings of a beautiful, cold, golden sunset, the kind that lasts longer in the Arctic, where the low sun bleeds across the snow in molten streaks, gilding even the dog's fur in the glow. I parked the dogs right at the bridge. I hadn't seen another soul all day, and the trail showed no recent traffic, so I was reasonably sure no one would come through. I walked up the line, offering each dog a half-pound of meat, then worked back down, checking feet. What tough feet these Seppalas have. With the dogs fed and settled in for a nap, I waded through the snow to check out the cabin. It was still early in the season, so it was locked, sadly. I took a proof of arrival selfie at the door and returned to the dogs. Some dogs, like Jester, Vodka, and Kyra, take every opportunity to rest. Others, Halo, Kuna, Kineo, and Druid, remain alert so long as I'm up and moving. They won't relax unless the boss relaxes. By this point in the expedition, I'd developed the habit of setting an alarm and lying in the snow next to the leaders or reclining on my sled bag. Timer, 1 hour and 30 minutes. I spoke into my phone, and the countdown began. I woke just before the alarm, always preferred as I despised the sound, and soaked in the view. Once more, the subarctic gifted me with a breathtaking scene. 16 Seppalas lay before me in the purest white snow, dogs, bridge, open water, spruce trees, Everything shimmered in the hue of the metal that once drew prospectors to this land. The entire landscape gleamed with gold. It draped over us like a blanket of warmth in a frozen world. I heard the snow machines pulling up behind me, but I was slow to rise, reluctant to disconnect from the moment. It was good to see my teammates. They were frustrated. They hadn't located the lost drone. "I have a backup drone," Caleb noted, "but the footage of the other drone was priceless." Jamie and Jeff checked out Tripod Cabin and then took off for Old Woman. Caleb stayed behind and asked me to resume my rest on the sled for some B-roll footage before we departed, and I was happy to oblige. At long last, we approached the confluence of Old Woman River and the Unalakleet River beneath the shadow of the Old Woman Mountain. The shadow is not used merely metaphorically. The moonlight draped Old Woman Mountain in a color of other precious metal, silver. Even the snow on the spruce boughs seemed to glow faintly. The moon shone so brightly that I mushed through the forest without a headlamp. The dogs love running in the moonlight. It touches something primal in them. I've long believed that the drive of a sled dog is derived from that of a wolf pack pursuing their prey. Centuries of selective breeding magnified and refined this instinct. Deep in their DNA, the sled dog feels it is running in a pack after something just around the bend. At its best, mushing is the human's invitation to join the wolf pack in this ancient dance. As we neared the cabin, I was forced to turn my headlamp back on. Tracks veered in several directions. Apparently, Jamie and Jeff had trouble locating the cabin and had searched the area. Caleb took off to the right to explore, but my internal compass and the map I had studied religiously led me to take the left. Turning a 16-dog team around in narrow streamside trails is no small feat and one I avoid whenever possible. Just as I was about to concede choosing the wrong path and turning the team, I was relieved to hear a gunshot in the direction I was headed. Through the trees, I glimpsed the glow of a cabin window. I pulled up to the cabin and saw the Bureau of Public Land sign, Old Woman Cabin. We had made it. I'm not one to celebrate prematurely. There were still so many miles of unknown troubles ahead, but on this night, at this cabin, I let myself believe. I felt confident that we would finish what we started. The questions about whether modern Seppalas could endure such day-after-day Arctic conditions were melting away. 100 years hadn't diminished their abilities. The dogs looked great. Some were coming alive in ways I'd never seen before. Their ancestors would be proud. Orion chased the seven sisters across the night sky over Old Woman Cabin, which loomed like a giant. We were farther from any human habitation than we would be at any point in the expedition. Deep in the Alaska wilderness. The first dog team here this season. We had it all to ourselves for the night. And we would finish. I allowed the joy to momentarily overtake me. "Woohoo! Yes," I yelled into the wild, and it echoed back to me. I wouldn't celebrate again, not even at the finish, like I celebrated here. This was a victory for my dogs and my team. Jeff had thawed meat for the dogs. Jamie tended the wood stove. After feeding and bedding the dogs, I entered the cabin. No one had claimed the loft, so I tossed my gear up. My reconstructed knee was stiffening by the day, but the warm and spacious loft was worth the climb up and down the ladder. As the others ate, I considered what I might have, and then I remembered. The old woman. "I have to give her a sweet, or we'll be cursed," I said to my companions with a smile. There's a native tradition that the spirit of an old woman or spirits of ancestors roam this pass. Veteran mushers had warned me, don't forget to leave a sweet treat at the cabin or the rest of your journey will be cursed. I slipped my pack boots on and rushed out to my sled. I fumbled for a couple minutes through the sled bag. Ah, yes, here it is. A snack-size Snickers. I knew it would likely be eaten by a Canada jay or a weasel, but I had honored the tradition. I don't fear evil spirits or curses. I don't believe in appeasing the dead. But I love little traditions like this, and I'd resolved long before to honor this one. The Apostle Paul summed up my feelings on the topic well. Meat offered to idols means nothing if the idol is nothing. But I do believe in spirits, angels, fallen angels, demons, and the spirits of, as the Bible says, just men made perfect. As Paul the Apostle wrote, if the rich man in the story of Jesus could see heaven from hell, then maybe they could see into the physical realm too. Tradition, I thought with a smile, nothing more, until I looked up into the sky above the cabin. For the first and only time in the expedition, there dancing over Old Woman Mountain, the cabin, everything, I saw the full display of the aurora borealis. Ghastly green waves, brilliant rivers of light across a northern sky. The northern light spread like shimmering curtains, so bright they cast shadows on the snow and made the night feel alive. Science tells us they're magnetic waves from solar flares. Some Inuit believe that they're the spirits of ancestors. Others believe malevolent spirits. My Pictish ancestors thought them to be the spirits of animals that they had hunted. Both my Celtic and Viking ancestors believed they were bridges between the worlds. As both trained scientist and a Christian, I believe scientific explanations do not rule out the spiritual. If the scientific rules that govern the physical world are predicated on or governed by the spiritual, then both can be, both are true. Here, a century ago, the interior Athabascan musher Jack Screw met up with coastal Yupik Eskimo musher Victor Anagik to hand off the serum. Their meeting here to share the cabin for a few hours carried so much weight. As the life-saving serum they relayed, it symbolized a long, complex history between inland and coastal peoples. Perhaps now, I mused, the natural phenomenon dancing across the sky in brilliant beams was also a supernatural celebration of that legacy. If you're enjoying this free recording of 100 Winters, the Great Race Against Death, then I ask you to return the favor and purchase a copy. You can go on Amazon and get an ebook, a paperback, or a hardcover, all just filled with glorious images from the illustrator and filmmaker Caleb Gingras. And if you would prefer to have an autographed copy, go to MUSH, MAINE, our website, or go to our social media and drop us a line. Until next time, Godspeed and happy trails.